Do you believe in the devil? Do you believe that there is a personification of evil that opposes God and opposes God's will? If so, what does that say about the power of God and the power of the devil? You could read the Bible literally and believe all of this, or you could go my route and you might actually have a chance of understanding what the stories about the devil mean. And that's what we're talking about this week. Kindred UMC live show features adults discussing adult topics, occasionally with adult language. It may not be suitable for young viewers. Please use discretion before watching.
My face at the beginning of this is probably insane every time. Because whenever you do that, I'm like, because you're so
okay,
loud.
Do you guys understand the purpose of the clap?
Yeah, it's the syncing.
It's the syncing.
Yeah, well, if you start immediately talking, it ruins it.
Oh. No, I didn't know that.
That I didn't know.
Now it's like,
Okay,
hey, we're starting, I guess.
Do it again. Do it again.
No, we're not doing. No,
do it again.
This all stays in.
Do it again.
I want the world to see your failure.
We need to do a thumbnail because I looked ridiculous in the last one.
I looked like I was ready to murder you.
All right, welcome once again to the Kindred UMC pre-recorded live show, coming to you not live, but pre-recorded from my front room, aka Kindred Studio A. My name is Chris Hayden. I am the pastor of Kindred UMC.
I'm Hannah, and my psychiatrist is about to start treating my ADHD, so this won't happen anymore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm Taylor, and my eye is currently on fire. I'm so sorry I can't see out of my right eye at all.
Well,
how are you going to read the cue cards?
Not a lot.
I'm struggling.
Okay, so this has been just a all-star start, I think. We are in our best form. We are beginning because of, also, this is true to form, because we have, because of multiple scheduling things.
Oh my God.
Do we need to stop? All right, let's stop. And we're back. I think we've adjusted all the things we needed to adjust. We are in the season of Lent. And because of scheduling things, we were kind of like off a little bit. But we've been in the season of Lent. If you want to know what Lent is about, go look at Ash Wednesday. And we are going to be talking for the next few weeks until Easter about key moments in the life and times of Jesus Cristo. You may know him as Jesus Christ. And I want to start not quite at the beginning, but at the beginning of his adult life, because his birth is like it's a season unto itself. You know, we've covered that in Advent and Christmas. But this is a text that is immediately after Jesus is baptized. It's kind of like the first steps into his adult ministry, the 3 years where he preaches and teaches and calls disciples and all that kind of stuff. So it is traditionally known as the temptation of Jesus. So let me start before we read the text. What have you heard? What is your impression? What comes up for you when I say the temptation of Christ?
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
What did you think?
I thought you were going to ask what makes me think of Lent, and I was going to say it's New Year's Part 2 with people's like diets and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just gonna be like, wait, is he tempting because he's sexy?
Well, we've seen them abs in them churches, you know.
I've seen some nice pictures of Jesus.
I have a
so
very
gay.
inappropriate joke that I want to tell, but I'm not allowed to. I
Just
will
say
tell
it and then
off
blurb
camera.
over it.
No, that's going to require more editing on me, on my part.
Like, it's not.
That would also probably really
I'll
make the
tell you
viewers mad.
after we're done recording.
Okay, cool.
You know how like people have pictures of Jesus in their bathrooms a lot of the time? Black people do. It's weird. I don't know.
I mean, old white people do too. So
Yeah,
I get
no,
it.
Mexican Catholic people do too.
Okay, cool. I don't know
Having
why
married one.
it's the bathroom that's like where the sacred photos go, but instead of having a picture of Jesus, my mom always had a picture of Thomas Jefferson, and I just feel the need to tell people anytime I remember because it's ridiculous.
You know how you say sometimes things are aggressively white of me?
Yeah.
That's the opposite.
Okay.
Anyway,
so we've
temptation
answered
of
no
Jesus.
questions about
So,
the temptation of Christ.
temptation of
so
Christ.
far.
I literally don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean because I feel like Christ is anti-temptation in a lot of ways.
Okay, so all right, that's an interesting thing too. So there's a story that we're about to read that is traditional churchy story. It's in the Bible a few times. And it's about Jesus being led into the wilderness to be tempted. And it's the beginning of his adult ministry. Right after this, he calls his disciples and starts his ministry of like preaching and healing people and raising people from the dead and all that kind of stuff. So all right. So we've got no real experience.
Not a single clue what you're
no
talking
real
about.
experience. A question about like, how do you tempt Jesus? Like, what does that even mean?
he's Jesus.
Okay, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up. We're going to talk about it.
Yay.
In the meantime, we are going to read from chapter 4 of the book of Matthew. Turn upside. It is chapter 4, right? Yeah, chapter 4, Matthew verses 1 through. And they sound like this.
Sorry, what was that number again?
I've pronounced it very clearly. Pay attention,
I'm
please.
so sorry.
I don't know.
Open your listening holes, obviously.
So it sounds like, so remember, this is just after Jesus gets baptized by John the Baptizer, John the Baptist. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was famished. The tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread," because he's so hungry. But he answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." And if you could see it, you would see that particular section is written in like verse rather than prose. And it's because he's quoting from the book of Deuteronomy.
Oh, okay.
Then the devil took him to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written." And again, verses. Now the devil's using verses. "He will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against the stone." And Jesus said to him again, "It is written, do not put your Lord God to the test." Again the devil took him to the very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to him, "All these I will give to you, if you will but fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil left him, and suddenly angels came and waited on him. That was 1 through 11, by the way, for the record.
I didn't understand a word of that.
So my first thought, do you know that episode of SpongeBob where they get stuck in that little thing?
I don't know any episode of SpongeBob.
Basically, they get stuck in this little treehouse thing, and they get thrown into the middle of the woods, right? And then Squidward's with them, and Squidward's like, "I'm not." They were listening to a conch shell, right? And they're getting things from the magic conch shell, and Squidward's like, "I'm not doing that," but good things keep happening to SpongeBob and Patrick. Because they're listening to the magic conch shell, and Squidward's not. And then finally, at the end of the episode, Squidward just sits down next to them and then starts eat. And every time he would try to eat, the food would get taken away because he wasn't listening to the magic shell. So that's
very much
what that means.
Giving that.
Very much giving that.
Okay.
I really would just thought everything the light touches will be yours.
So all right. Let's start by just going over what we heard.
Okay.
All right. So, Jesus goes into the wilderness. How long was he in the wilderness?
40 days, 40 nights.
Yeah, that's good. That's important.
This is how long Lent is.
Yeah, right.
Also, when did Lent start this year?
Ash Wednesday, which was
Valentine's Day.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
it was Valentine's Day because we were at the hospital.
14th.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was on Valentine's Day. It doesn't always fall on Valentine's Day, just so you know.
It just
not a yearly thing.
It has something to do with phases of the moon or something. So 40 days, 40 nights.
Okay.
Here's a detail that is oft missed in this story. Jesus fasts, and then the devil tempts him. So he's
weak.
He's in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, and he's fasting, and then the devil tempts him.
Right.
So there's a couple of cultural things. Now there's a lot to go around. First of all, what's your take on the devil?
I immediately pictured Lil Nas X.
I literally was like, that Lil Nas X video. Or Bosco in the nun's habit with the hooves.
Man.
That's
a very
all I could
niche
think.
reference for you guys.
Dave Chappelle does a great bit about Lil Nas X and the X in his last, but I cannot repeat any of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another off-camera.
I like that both of our examples were just maximum gay.
Yeah. So
that's kind of Dave Chappelle's bit.
I like, or Trinity playing the devil in Snatch Game. Anyways, sorry. So truly what I'm trying to say is, the devil in this story particularly is like, haha, let me poke you.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you to zoom out a little bit more. I'm literally just asking, what do you, I guess, to put it more literally, do you think there is an entity, a personality, a personification of evil that stands against God that is the devil? Do you think it's a metaphor? What do you make of the idea of the devil?
I don't think you can have God without the devil.
Okay.
Because it's kind of my same theory on like, you can't believe in angels and not ghosts.
Okay.
Which I know you disagree with, but at the same time, like that's kind of how I view it.
There's no day without night.
And there's no day without night, and there's no like, you have to have the opposite of something. There's no happy without sad.
Okay.
Like I truly believe that like we wouldn't know God's grace and God's goodness without the ideals and the temptations of the devil.
Okay.
That's how I view it.
Cool. You?
I really don't really have much of an opinion. I don't put a lot of thought about it.
Oh, okay.
I've been agnostic my whole life because literally anything religious, my brain just defaults to a big question mark.
Right.
Like,
fair enough.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I think that the devil is a metaphor, and I guess not the other end, because this technically could fit in with exactly everything you just said. I think the devil is a metaphor. I don't think there's like an idea or a personality out there.
You don't think like Lucifer fell from heaven and then was like,
Yeah, I definitely don't think that, because I can talk to you about, that's actually a reference to Babylon, the falling star, the morning star. Like I know where historically where that language comes from.
Well, all I got is that
I watched, my stuff won't change, but like that's kind of how I was raised, and that's kind of like how I was like taught to believe.
So like I watched Supernatural, that's all I got.
Right. Yeah, you and Francisco both. So I actually don't not believe in the devil.
Yeah.
I just think it's more abstract than a guy out there who has the power to stand against God.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not asking you to change your mind or you to have a stronger opinion. The reason I asked that question is because I really do want to point out for anybody out there who's listening, there's a wide variety, like there's multiple takes on this, and nobody knows the answer. And anyone who claims they know the answer, back away from them. Do not trust them.
It's like a bear, just like slowly.
Back away slowly and do not trust them, because nobody knows. And I include myself in that. Nobody knows the answer to this question. So there is language around the concept. There's like the Hebrew word Satan and what it means, and then there's a Greek word that's also Satan that's just the translate. If you want to know anything about the etymology of that, go check out my Mad Pastor video, which will be up there, where I really go in depth on that. But we don't have enough time to do that now. So I want to talk about the word tempted instead.
Okay.
So this is a Greek word, perezo. Everybody say perezo.
Perezo.
There you go. Now you speak Greek.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
nailed
it.
About
Yeah.
Sisterhood. I've seen Mamma Mia.
You know, there was a Greek chicken place that I grew up with called Yaya's Chicken, and
it was good.
Delicious. It was delicious. I have very nostalgic memories. So perezo is the word in Greek that is translated in this text, tempted.
Okay.
Or that's the root of it. It's actually it's conjugated, but whatever. Perezo actually doesn't just mean tempted, it means tested. And so, like, let me just re-say some of the things. Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tested. Does that change the connotation for you at all?
Yeah.
For me, I think there's something important about that difference, because the question you started with is like, how can Jesus be tempted?
But I think tested makes more sense.
Yeah, because like to make sure he was
who he said he was,
as legit as
Jesus is being put to the test is a better translation.
We're gonna put you at your weakest and then see if you fold even then.
Tested by the devil. And then the next sentence is, so then the tester asks him. It's the same word, perezo, that gets translated as the devil. It's not the devil, it's the tester. So Jesus gets tested by the devil, then the tester asks him. So it's like a different thing. Now, the other thing I want to point out is all the things that Jesus says that he quotes are from Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is one of the first 5 books of the Bible. You know what it's called? What the first 5 books are?
Is that the Old Testament?
It is in the Old Testament, but the specifically...
Oh, the Old Testament's bigger than just that.
Yeah, right. But it is in the Old Testament. You're not wrong. But what's the first 5 books? Does anybody know?
I swear I went to church growing up, man. I swear to God.
That's okay.
I was coloring in the little pamphlets they gave you, so I was not paying any attention.
It's the Torah.
Oh!
Which means the law.
I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. Now, here's what's interesting about the first 5 books of the Bible. The first 4 all cover like
creation
eras. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So Genesis is about creation. Exodus is about the people being led out of Egypt, and then Numbers, Leviticus. These cover eras and epochs. They're years and years and years. Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy takes place basically on one day.
Oh,
weird.
Yeah. So it stands out. It is a unique book in the Torah.
okay.
The Deuteronomy book is basically one sermon that Moses gives to the Israelites before they're about to enter into the promised land. Okay? So the Israelites are about to inherit the promised land. Now, do you know what happens before they're allowed to inherit the promised land? Because they've been to this kind of border before, but something happens before they're allowed to go in. They fail a test.
Oh.
But they have to fail the test to go in, or they have to pass the test
They
to
have
go
to pass the
But
test.
they
I was
failed
like,
the
hold
test the
on.
first time.
But they fail the test. They get to the promised land, and they send in spies to like see who's there and whatever. And there's Philistines, there's giants in the land. Excuse me. And they come back and they're too afraid to go in. And so God says, all right, walk through the wilderness. We're going to wait till one generation dies off. And he sends them back into the wilderness. You're hearing the wilderness theme?
Yeah.
Test passing, wilderness. So this is all what Deuteronomy evokes. Do you know how long they spend in the wilderness?
I'm going to guess 40 days.
40 years.
Because a generation.
Because the
A generation,
Right.
unless they're fruit flies.
Duh.
But you're both on the right. You got the right track.
Yeah.
40 years in the desert, 40 years in the wilderness before they're allowed to come back to the border and try again.
Yeah.
How long does Jesus spend in the wilderness?
40 days and 49.
That's right. And what is he going into the wilderness to do?
Be
Pass the
tested.
test.
Be tested. Yes, to pass the test. So Jesus,
He's like, I've heard this story.
well, not just him, but everybody who would have read this.
They're like, I done been there.
Like, remember that this is, Matthew is writing, so the idea that Matthew somehow like followed Jesus into the wilderness and was like taking notes and was like, wait, what did the devil say? Let me get it word for word. It's absurd. No, Matthew's including this story, this apocryphal story, to illustrate something about Jesus. So just like Israel was 40 years in the wilderness before they could take their test again, before they could get into the promised land, now Matthew is depicting Jesus as this 40 days in the wilderness before he takes his test. And of course Jesus passes the test because he's Jesus, and that's, the whole point.
Yeah.
But like, so essentially what Matthew is saying here is like, Jesus is the personification of what Israel is supposed to be. And when Israel couldn't pass their test, Jesus is the one who comes to pass it for them on their behalf.
It just clicked.
Like, so Jesus is like making this, or Matthew is making this statement about Jesus. All right, can you say more about what you...
So like, duh. The whole point of Jesus is that like he came to like save us from our sins and like take the fall for us, right? So like that makes complete sense.
Yeah, this is Matthew's
And again,
statement.
I promise I grew up in church. I have never heard this in my life.
Well, I mean, I'm smarter than a lot of people. I don't know what to say.
You might have been told, but you didn't hear also.
Perhaps.
No, but like, especially like I've never once understood that those two things go together, like Deuteronomy and Matthew
Yes.
go together.
Yeah. Or at least in this particular story.
Yes. Like,
Matthew is quoting directly from Deuteronomy. All the things that Jesus says.
I didn't even know to read the Bible like that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know that was like a subtext I could read like that.
Yeah.
So just now.
Well, I mean, it also I get paid to like sit on that computer and read a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah.
You know, like, so like to expect I don't expect every lay person to like be as
but it's so
deeply
interesting
into this as I am.
No, it's so interesting because like that's the whole point of Jesus, right? So like every time we do these, it's like, duh, that's the whole point. Like, and I'm like shocked every time. I'm like,
so
like gullible as hell.
So here's one other thing I want to add to it, and I know you guys aren't as familiar with this story, but for anybody out there like who grew up in the church and has heard this before, I always kind of saw this story as like, you know, you think about Jesus or anybody in the desert, and it's like water.
Yeah.
You know, it's oasis hallucination in the distance, that kind of thing. And that's how I always kind of like thought about this story growing up. And I don't think that's what Matthew intended, because like the tester comes and Jesus is like, what about this? Whoop-am! You know, like, how about this? Whoop-am! Like, and then at the end, angels come and wait on him, you know, like. So I think this is the very first in Western history. This is the first training montage that we've ever had. Have you ever seen Rocky?
Yes.
Yeah. And then another example that I love to use is Mulan.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. Like, also, best montage of all time.
Also, I've never seen
down
Mulan.
To business.
You know this.
No, that I didn't know.
It's some of the best. It's the best. Yeah. So
I'm gonna get red. So I'm gonna get red right now.
I'm so excited to go home and watch Mulan.
You gotta
baby.
see Mulan. It's really
not tonight.
Really
I know it's already bedtime.
It's a classic Disney. It's a really good one.
You're like non-binary AF. You're gonna love this movie.
Oh yeah, you will love this.
You're
movie.
gonna love
That's
this
true.
movie.
Yeah, there's a lot.
This movie is one whole big gender question mark. You're gonna love it.
I know the music because I worked at camp.
Yeah. The Hun, have they sent me daughters?
I have a video
when I asked for sons
of Andrew singing that at my 18th birthday party, like going hardcore. And my mom like pulled out her phone camera and was like,
Andrew goes hard in the paint on karaoke.
Some days it's very apparent that I was a Nickelodeon kid. And this is one of those moments.
Yeah, this is a Disney.
This is one of those moments because I can quote SpongeBob from like start to finish.
We're only 4 years apart, but the separation in like when Disney stopped being good and when Nickelodeon started being good is that 4-year age difference.
Yeah, that's true.
Like 100%.
That's true. I mean, I got SpongeBob socks on.
There you go. On brand. So this is a training montage. This is Matthew establishing this dude to be the Messiah, the one who is promised.
He's making it so that we root for him.
Yes. And that we can trust him, that we can trust that he knows what he's talking about, that he knows what he's about, and that he's turning away from political power. He's turning away from his physical personal needs, and he's really here for us. Because like what happens after this is
he dies.
Well, that
a little bit later.
He does do that, but before he does that,
if we're talking about Lent, what happens at the end of Lent?
Yeah, but he after this he embarks on this ministry of like blind are gonna see. People are going to come back from the dead. Yeah. The hungry are going to be fed. People are going to experience freedom like they've never experienced. He is going to die, and then he's going to come back, and he's going to set the world on fire. Like this isn't like some desperate, scrawny, scared Messiah. The picture of
goat.
Like this guy's like, I'm ready. I want the ball. Give me the ball. When the game's on the line, winners want the ball, and I want the ball.
Yeah.
Like that's what this is. And the fact that we're sitting here 2,000 years later, and that people to this day who put their faith in this idea, and I'm not even talking about the literal structures and adherence of the church and the institution. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this idea.
We ain't about all that.
Yeah, this personification of God's grace that is Jesus. This God person who actually institutes grace and the kingdom of heaven for everyone. When we follow that one, when we lean into that and say, you know what, you're right. I couldn't pass the test. I had 40 years to do it and I couldn't do it myself. I need someone to do it for me, and I need something bigger than me. I need a grace that's beyond me. When people throw their hearts and their lives into that, for 2,000 years, they've been set free. They've experienced life. They've found healing. They've found resurrection. Like this guy's about to light the world on fire.
Yeah.
And that's what this story is really, truly about. So we're going to talk more and more about this in the coming weeks as we lead up to Palm Sunday, Good Friday, where Jesus is crucified. And we're going to talk about that because we could talk forever about that. And then the resurrection and why it actually matters. Why this concept that nobody can prove, that 2,000 years ago, a guy came back from the dead. And anybody who says they can prove it, again, back away from them. They can't.
Unless you were there.
Right. Yeah, don't
unless they're the doctor.
Yeah, right. Don't
I gotta make it nerdy.
But we are going to talk about what it means and why it matters and why 2,000 years later it still has relevance for us in this life. We're going to talk about these things for the coming weeks as we go through Lent and lead up to Easter. So please stick with us. Anything else? Final thoughts?
No. I was getting ready to say, may the Lord bless you and keep you.
May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
All them.
All woman.
Boom.
Peace.
We did it.